Want to go deeper with Lobbing Scorchers? You know, scratch under the surface, get down even dirtier than we already get. Become a YouTube member. Sometimes things just get a little too spicy, a little too weird, and a little too loose for the general public. And you know, the people to see that are YouTube members. We're talking about exclusive bonus videos, the podcast after show, exclusive written content, and little bits and pieces of information before the unwashed masses know about it. As a member, you not only get access to all of this amazing content, you get a badge next to your name and a slew of amazing emotes to use, not only in our live stream chat, but also in our comments section. And yes, we do have an emote for Jesus Ferreira, Ghost Snack, and Paul Rothrock. This is the best way to help keep us independent and keep us building out this crazy YouTube brand that we call Lobbing Scorchers. Hit the join button down below or hit the link in the top of our description if you're on mobile to join the ranks and become a Lobbing Scorchers YouTube member.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Lobbing Scorchers Under the Lights. We're going to be hanging out tonight, talking some Seattle Sounders and Major League Soccer. Got a couple things planned. We're going to be talking a little more in depth about the recently released MLSsoccer.com 22 under 22 rankings, which, as you might have seen, Obed Vargas finished as the number one ranked player in those rankings. And we talked about it a little bit on the podcast, but I figure for this episode, we can take a look at the list, give some more thoughts on that, and have some sound from Sounders Director of Player Development, Henry Bronner, that I was also going to play at the top of the show here. Henry, we usually play the Schmetz scrum. The last Schmetz scrum was a couple days ago. You don't get a Henry Bronner scrum every day. So I figure while we wait for people to trickle in at the top of the show here, we'll give Henry some shine, play his interview, talk about that, look a little bit more at the 22 under 22 stuff. And then later on, was planning on playing with the lineup builder a little bit. I think this could end up being one of the best novelty lineups of the season. The Sounders are going to be ravaged with absences for this matchup against Real Salt Lake at Lumen Field on Saturday. I believe the number I saw was they're going to have 13 of the regular first team players available, which is not enough to fill out a squad. There's going to be some hardship call-ups. There's going to be some Tacoma Defiance representation in the match day squad, but we'll bust out the lineup builder and talk about how we think the Seattle Sounders are going to line it up, or how they should line it up. I mean, you got I was making the list earlier. You got so many guys out, which is unfortunate, but it's going to make for an interesting game, I guess. So those are the main two things that I had planned. As always, if you got any other topics, questions, agendas, grievances, go ahead, drop them in chat. I'll get to as many as I can. Planning on hanging out for about an hour, but if we're really flowing and the content is going, maybe I'll stick around longer. But it's good to be back. It's good to be back in action. I appreciate Noah for holding down the content while I was away in my hometown of Santa Fe, New Mexico, for it was about a 4-day absence. I missed the Timbers game. I missed kickoff. And Noah was holding it down. We still got the content out, but feels good to be back home in the content grind. And I'm ready to finish off the season strong here. There's a couple games left, and we'll probably talk a little bit about expectations, hopes, and dreams for these last two games tonight as well, because it's kind of a kind of like a lame duck part of the season right now. It feels like playoff seeding is pretty much decided. They're going to get fifth in all likelihood, unless something weird happens. Getting into the top four and getting that home field advantage is probably not going to happen. But these last two games, I mean, you got this one against Real Salt Lake and decision day against NYC. And then that's a wrap on your 2025 regular season. And you got to play this Real Salt Lake one without a lot of guys. So we'll see how that goes. No special RSL guest. Sorry about that. I'm not always able to line them up. I admittedly didn't try that hard. I've been kind of getting my bearings, getting my feet back on the ground. Didn't really plan this show all that much. But hopefully we'll get some guests on, get that back going for the playoffs. Albert Rusnak, yeah, not playing this weekend, famously. Which, obviously it's unfortunate to not have him for the game, but would it have really been a Seattle Sounders game if without the red card? I felt like I was telling the story on the podcast, but I watched the last few minutes of that game on TV. I saw the last 15 minutes like on my phone, and then the last like 2 minutes on TV. And the last thought that I had before that game ended was that they had managed to make it through without getting a red card. So you couldn't have that. You couldn't have that. Had to get a guy sent off. It's kind of weird that it was Albert Rusnak. That's not the guy that I typically associate with a slide tackle red card. But hey, there was a lot of red cards this season that I didn't necessarily expect. So it was a good way. It was a good way to tie off that Derby win, get someone sent off, get someone suspended when you're already shorthanded anyway. So anyway, let's get to it. Before we dive in, if everyone could please sub to the channel, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, rate 5 stars, all that good stuff. Riot says, moment of silence for Portland. Seattle might have just won an MLS game, but the Timbies just lost their World Cup final. You know what's weird about that game is, I didn't see it live, admittedly, but I saw the last part of it and I watched it back a fair amount. And I also, I feel like I have a pretty good handle on how it went. It seems like that game didn't really feel like the Timbies Soundies games of recent years where the Timbies came out playing like Real Madrid, and Seattle found themselves unable to match that intensity. It didn't seem like that really happened. I don't know if that's because the dynamic is actually changing, or maybe the Timbies were kind of gassed. It did not, to me at least, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but to me, it did not feel like that, which that is a good thing. And that's honestly one of my biggest positive takeaways from that game is that, you're not always going to win a Derby game. Those are 50-50 as far as how the results go, but you can control stuff like whether you're bringing the requisite intensity to the occasion. Brian Schmetzer, self-admittedly, a couple years ago, said that he felt like the team and the staff weren't meeting that. And so it was just nice to see. I feel like they had slowly been working their way away from that storyline in the last year or so. And now with a win at home, I'm hoping we can call that done and dusted. If the next time those two teams play, it goes back to the Timbies being on top of it the entire time, then we'll have to revisit it. But I think for now, it was an important win just for that reason. Yeah, it felt tame. It felt like a normal soccer game, which I guess isn't necessarily what you want in a rivalry game. You want the energy to be there. But I think with how Seattle Portland fixtures have been going in the last couple of years, one that was played more like a normal game where the Timbies couldn't just get on top of Seattle for the entire first half, which that's what's happened a lot. Having one where it's at home, you don't let the game state devolve into that type of thing. You control it pretty much how you would a normal home game against any other team. I think it was a good step for Seattle to play a derby against Portland like that. And more importantly, get the win. And I don't even think that, a more convincing win would have been great. But I think there is something to be said for grinding out a result we all know this. That type of game, that's the type of game you're going to have to play in the playoffs. It's very few and far between a playoff game where you just run all over the other team the entire time and win by multiple goals. It doesn't usually happen. You're going to have to grind it out. You're going to have to play tight, close, competitive games, and you need to be able to win those types of games. And there is no coach in Major League Soccer who has had more success winning those types of games over the last 10 years or so than Brian Schmetzer. So it'll be interesting to see if they can channel that Leagues Cup energy as well. You throw this team in a tournament setting, and all of a sudden they go God mode, but they have not managed to recapture God mode since the Leagues Cup final. So I think recapturing that is going to be a challenge for the playoffs. But I do think also if there's any team that can do it, I've learned not to doubt that it could be this team. They are going to be playing in the New York game, or is the NYC game? I think it's at Citi Field. Citi Field. We're gonna be playing in the New York Mets outfield, so that's always fun. There's novelty to that. It's not every day you get to play in the New York Mets outfield. I was in New York City. It's a long time ago at this point when they played in the New York Yankees outfield. That was pretty cool. That was the year that they played in the Yankees outfield and there was a torrential thunderstorm. But this one's going to be at Citi Field, home of the New York Mets. Hopefully there's no conflict. Are the New York Mets in the playoffs? I don't even know. Hopefully there's no baseball conflicts. That would be bad. What if the Mets had a game? All right. Let's I'm going to play this Henry Bronner sound. We're going to let him wax on Obed getting 22 under 22 number one spot. I haven't watched this yet, so I wanted to see it as well. But like I said, I feel like it's just it's a good opportunity to give Henry Bronner some shine. For those of you who don't know, this is the Sounders Director of Player Development. This is one of the main guys who is responsible for the youth development juggernaut that the Seattle Sounders have become. So let's have Henry take it away. They had him do this interview because Obed Vargas got named number one on MLS's 22 under 22 rankings. So what does Henry have to say about that? I'm going to let this one rip while we wait for people to trickle in, and then we'll react to it, maybe pull out the list, and I'll give more of my thoughts on how the rest of the list shaped out and stuff like that. So here we go. Henry, how are you feeling about Obed Vargas getting named number one on MLS 22 under 22?
I guess congratulations on Obed winning this award. Does it feel like a milestone for the developmental side of the organization?
I don't know if it's a milestone. I think it's just a good reassurance of all the work that goes into it. I think, everybody from, Lauren, our operations, to Wade, to the academy coaches, to the scouts, to people that ultimately bring in the players and surround the players and put them into the best environment possible. And then players like Obed, Reed, and all the homegrowns, they take that environment and they maximize it. I think the other part of that too is, look, every dollar Adrian and the club put into the development side of the club, that's just a future investment in the first team. And now you're seeing that investment that was made years ago starting to come to fruition. So we're thankful for that. We're thankful for being able to give these players an opportunity. Obed came into the academy when he was 14 years old, just like a lot of them. And, now he's 20 and he's been here 6 years, and he embodies a big part of what we are. And that's best players are your best people. And if you have that, you have somebody unique. And that's what.
Is the audio not correct?
You spent some time down in Chile watching him play for Mexico. What were your takeaways from his play in particular and sort of more broadly?
Yeah, I think.
Let me know if that's better.
When we go down to these events, such as like a top high potential event with like youth players, U20 World Cup, U17 World Cup, Toulon international events, these markets that we go see players at, it's always, for us, it's a benchmarking event. If you look at, you look at Stewart, you look at Snyder, you look at Obed, you look at the players that we have that fit into that age eligible U20 spectrum, it makes sure that we're on the right path and we're able to see what our players, what we've been able to produce, what they have versus what other national teams don't have, such as Argentina. This player has that. We didn't produce that. We get a good benchmark of, okay, for the next generation, let's improve them in this space because that's what Paraguay did very well, or that's what Japan's doing well. And so hopefully we get a good benchmark of our players, and we also get a good idea that we're keeping on pace with what the world is in terms of football.
What have been some of the changes or tweaks that you've made to the programs over the years that you kind of see to ensure that you get more Obeds?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, we were in a building phase. We were trying to get the right staff. We're trying to create the right environment. We're trying to create the right space for these players to thrive. And I think as we went through the years and as we built a good foundation, we started to get much more intentional in what we were doing in terms of this player needs specifically this. This is the entrance barrier for this player into the first team. So giving them all the resources that they need to have the foundation that they need to be able to take steps into a first team or a pro pathway, but also then, okay, what's going to make them special? What's going to make them unique? Do they have a super talent that we're able to develop a little bit more? Because it's not just about, okay, they don't have this, they don't have that. We got to make that a little bit better. But what they do have and what makes them special and unique and what separates them from their peers, we have to make that almost a super talent. And that's kind of what we've started to do. And again, Wade does a wonderful job of that, going from his days in the academy to the Defiance head coach, all the way now into the director of development. We're just trying to be more intentional in what we do. We're trying to give the right players the right opportunities so that they have the opportunity to be here.
Did you see any forwards down there that were good?
A lot, yeah. We saw a lot of players. We have a pretty good picture of what that space looks like in that age spectrum. Looking at what we have coming internally into our pro pathway, we feel like we're in a pretty good place comparable to what we saw there as well. So we're always going to try to look inside first. Otherwise, the money Adrian's spending to put into the development side, then yeah. So we're always going to look internally, see what we have. If we don't have it, then we'll look outside. But having been there with Sean for the last probably 12 days, I think we're in a pretty good place.
What have you seen from Obed's progression this season that makes him deserving of this recent award?
I think just the consistency in performance. I think when players are young, especially when he was first entering the first team, you'd see this incredible performance where you're like, okay, that's what's going to keep him in this space and able to survive and compete. And then you'd see maybe a drop off in quality, and then you'd see a spike, and then you see a drop off, you see a spike. Now we just see a very flat line of consistent performances, and that for us is him taking one next steps as a professional. And now he knows, we know, Brian knows, Preki knows, Andy knows, Freddie knows, this is what he's going to provide us. Even if it's not his best day, even if it's not the top end performance that we know he's capable of giving, we're going to get this standard from him. And then he's going to have those spikes where it's like, wow, this is why he's just won this award. This is why he was voted for by the peers in this league as a top U22 player. So
You
I was gonna say, what do you have? This is maybe hard to ask, or hard to answer, but what do you see as his realistic ceiling? Is this a player who you expect to see in the next World Cup? Is he someone that you think is going to be playing Champions League?
I think, again, what we always want to provide for the players is that environment for them to succeed. And then Obed's going to take it from there, or Danny's going to, whoever the homegrown is that is there. But we know and we feel that we have the right space, we have the right environment for these players to take next steps. Obed's always been, again, we talk about learning capacity as one of the most important traits within a young player. You know, how long does it take them to take on information? How long does it take them to be able to execute what we're asking? And when we see these top players, the ones behind us that are training in there as well, their learning curve is so fast that it's almost immediate in that effect, where it takes 1 or 2 sessions, or it takes 1 or 2 talks, or it takes 1 or 2 video sessions with Johnny, and all of a sudden they're executing exactly how we want it. So for Obed, knowing that what we've been able to provide from the environment with the resources that we have here, when he's ready to take next steps, he's going to take next steps. And from there, you know, he's going to be just fine. Even from again, he's unique in the sense that even from a young age, he knew where he wanted to go, and everything's been self-regulated, and everything's been in the pursuit of that. So for Obed, the best thing we did was stay out of his way. And that's what we feel he's having so much success now.
That's a pretty unique trait though, that he has? I mean, are you finding more young players have that kind of that goal, especially like specialization in sport is really big, or actually it's almost cemented now. I mean,
yeah,
you see that.
Yeah, we look at, again, I think he's like a Norwegian sports scientist, Cote, and he talks about early specialization in players. And again, from ages, 6 to 12, a diversity of things are very important for the players. But then once 12 to 14 hits, starting to specialize within the sport that they're going to eventually go into, that's the critical moment for us. Obed has some interesting, I think, environmental factors that aided in his development. Growing up in Alaska, he spent a lot of time playing indoors, which means higher density of touches for every training session on the ball. It means a lot less time and space. So the constraint of the game was always magnified for him. And so having gone through that process and then coming into a place now where there's 120 yards with length and there's about 80 yards of width, the small indoor fields he's coming from that helped aid his environmental development when he was in Alaska, you can now see it. His ability to carry space with the ball, his ability to beat players 1v1, all these things environmentally that were there because of that early specialization in the sport, we're starting to see it a little bit more. So I think to go back to your original question, we see it, but we also try to create it. And as long as we can create it with the right constraints and the right level of resistance, then they can take next steps.
There you have it from Henry Bronner. Henry Bronner, a friend of the show, actually. Some of you might remember our famous live show at Starfire for Tacoma Defiance versus Portland Timbys US Open Cup. Henry Bronner, he hopped on our live show, and that was a fun interview. You guys got to ask him questions in the chat and everything. So shout out to Henry Bronner. And obviously it's a big moment, I think, for the whole scouting department and the player development pathway program and all that, because the proof of concept you see on the field week in, week out. But Noah and I talked about this on the pod a little bit. Once you see the national recognition start to arrive, that is confirmation of what you're seeing. And I'm gonna pull up this list just because I wanted to just take a look at the full list one more time, because it's worth looking at the type of competition that we're talking about with these types of things and where Seattle's players do indeed stack up. So, I mean, here you have the final rankings right here. You see Obed at the top. I've been voting on this list for the last few years. So I feel like I've gotten a pretty good handle on what the pool is like from year to year. And I think this was a really strong one, particularly I think the top 6, when I look at it, all of them have some argument or another for the top spot. Alex Freeman, I think his breakout is real. You have some in the U.S. men's national team sphere who any player who's coming up through MLS is going to be polarizing as far as the USMNT goes, but he definitely he has been, I think, one of the biggest breakout stars, like from a single season that I can remember in the last couple years, coming up with an MLS team like he did with Orlando City. But the thing when I look at it, that what Obed has on a lot of these guys is just so much experience. Guys like Freeman, Toklamati, they are this is their first year in the league. So in that way, it's kind of impressive that they're already finishing top 5. But like you see all kind of scopes of it, because guys like Owen Wolf and Quinn Sullivan, they have maybe not as many MLS games as Obed under their belt, but they have a lot. So to finish, it's all a long way of saying, like, to finish atop a group of players like this, it's not easy to do. It is always interesting looking through and kind of gauging which of these players made it based on theoretical projected upside and which players are already proven contributors. And I think when you look at this top 10 that I have up right here, these are all guys that contribute and are starters for their teams week in, week out. Davi Martinez, maybe not as much, but we saw the goal that he scored against Seattle this year, and sometimes he comes out with these individual plays where I'm like, that might be the best young player from a raw talent perspective in the whole league. He just hasn't put it together consistently. Corey's wondering if RBW saw minutes at the U20 World Cup today. I'm not sure. I can look that up right now. I know the U.S. is on to the quarterfinals. They beat Italy 3-0, which the U20s are kind of like, they're kind of balling out. They're kind of balling out. All right, I can't find if RBW played today or not. Someone look that up. But I know he played the last few minutes of the France game, and I want to say that he was on the field for all three of the goals that the US scored against France. U20s have beat France and Italy in the last couple days. All right, he got 9 minutes, 10 minutes, garbage minutes. Hey, we take that. I mean, I think looking how well that team is performing, I mean, to my understanding, the U20s have had runs like this before, but this seems like very legitimately impressive performances against teams like this. The U20s are sometimes maybe able to hang more with the countries like Italy and France, maybe, than the senior team would be. But it's not the same thing as the senior team winning a game against one of those countries. But the U20s bossing them around like they seem to have. I didn't watch those games live, but just looking at the score lines and what people are saying about how they went, it's not nothing. It's not nothing to boss those teams up like that. And yeah, I don't know how RBW stacks up on that U20 team, but it is like just the fact that he's in the mix, that he's playing in games, and it seems like he positively contributed to, at least like meaningfully contributed to the France result. I'm not sure about the Italy one, but if he's getting in at the end of these games and working his way in that team, I think that's a good sign. And it's good that Obed is out there with Mexico as well. I think that is that's the type of stuff that you have to let your players pursue if that's what they want to do. It would be nice to have Obed and RBW right now, and we'll talk about that shortly here. But for them and their careers and what they want to do, you got to let them go do it. And it seems like they're actually taking to the opportunity. Obed's been playing a lot for the Mexico U20s, as I understand it. And RBW is working in with the US. Okay, so he didn't contribute in the France game. Well, he was on the field. So that means he wasn't actively preventing them from performing well. So that's step one. Hopefully he gets more minutes, or there's more moments where he's making an impact on the game. It sounds like that's kind of the next step that we want to see from him in this tournament. But he's also, he's getting like spot duty. You got Benjamin Cramashi leading the Golden Boot race. He scored 2 more goals against Italy. He's got 5 for the tournament. I don't know, like, is it just me, or was he not all that good for Inter Miami? He was one of those guys that showcased a lot of potential. I think he was near the top of this list last year. But every time I would watch him play for Inter Miami, I was like, okay. 3 touches. 3 touches is more than 0. All right. It's more than 0. They were scoring goals with RBW on the field, and I'm going to credit RBW for that. Only scored once while he was on the field in the Italy game. All right, well, this is now a play RBW more agenda. If he's playing 10 minutes at a time, that's not a heck of a lot of time to be making the impact that we know RBW can make. But I also think there's stuff to be said for the experience of it, playing international footy, even if it's on the youth level. Hopefully that can elevate RBW's game. Hopefully that can elevate Obed's game. Looking at the rest of this U22 list, there's just all kinds of profiles of guy. And I know I was just kind of looking at the rest of it, gauging, are there any of these guys that should have been higher, or who would I take any of these guys over Obed right now? I mean, having looked through it as much as I have, the answer to that is no. But you got some ballers on here. You got some guys that are underrated. I mean, Peyton Miller's 17. He starts every game for the Revs. Luca Bombino is 18. He starts every game seemingly for San Diego. They're getting great value out of him. So yeah, I just wanted to look at it a little more in depth. And you see, you got 14 homegrown players, 7 U22 initiative players. Obviously, Toklamati is the crown jewel of that. Thought Kelsey was lower than he should be. Like the thing with Kel, that's a good example of the type of guy where the upside and the potential has been getting talked about just for so long, to where I'm like, all right. I mean, he's been the next big thing for like 3 years. When he got to FC Cincinnati, he was supposedly the next big thing. The Timbies supposedly made this big coup by getting him. I feel like he has been okay this year. He's scored a few goals, but he's definitely not been like an elite line leader in the league. But he does have, I mean, his physical profile is pretty impressive. That guy's like 6'4" and a freak athlete. So, I mean, I definitely understand where the allure comes from. Anyway, that's pretty much all I had on the under 22 rankings. Congrats to Obed. I mean, it's big time to get number one on this. I forgot, I guess, Freddie Montero once upon a time was named, when it was 24 under 24, he was named the number one player. I thought Yedlin was the only one who had ever finished in first on this, but it turns out Freddie and Yedlin. But I consider Yedlin and Obed in a different category than Freddie. Freddie, you know, they transferred in from outside the league, which they get credit for that. That was one of the best signings they could have made for where the team was in its existence. But I think it's more impressive to do it with a guy that you developed yourself. And Yedlin, he counts as a Seattle developed player, and he's had a great career. And Obed, I think it's pretty clear at this point that he's the most talented player the Sounders have produced. Jordan would have an argument there. Peak Yedlin would have an argument. The Newcastle, the good Newcastle years of Yedlin, right? They might have an argument. But I mean, Obed seems like he's on his own type of level right now. And you know, it's interesting to hear Henry talking about what his ultimate ceiling is, and how they kind of have the philosophy of letting the player determine that, you know, giving them the guidance, setting them up to succeed as best you can, and then letting them determine their ceiling. And in that way, I think we have no idea what the best of Obed is. We have no idea. Yedlin homecoming this weekend. I didn't even think of that. That's right. He is on Real Salt Lake now. He got traded to Real Salt Lake a couple months ago, which it was kind of a tough trajectory. He went from Inter Miami, which that would be a fun team to be on. It would be a pretty fun team to be on. Playing with Messi, living in Miami, all that. But then they traded him to FC Cincinnati, which it's like, okay, maybe not as glamorous as being on Inter Miami, but that's still one of the best teams in the league. And certainly they have one of the best like fan bases in the league, some of the best like environments, TQL Stadium in the league. Then he has to go to America First Field, which aside from being the dumbest named stadium in Major League Soccer, I just don't think it's quite the same. Wouldn't be quite as fun to be on that team this year, especially with how the results have gone with these respective teams. Wouldn't be as fun to be on Real Salt Lake as it's been to be on Inter Miami or FC Cincinnati. But, you know, he's still doing it. He's still doing it. I will say, I do hope that the DeAndre Yedlin Seattle Sounders reunion happens at some point. You know, last couple of years of his career, maybe to be a backup rotational fullback. I would take that. U.S. Soccer calling in Snyder Brunell to the U19s while he's in line to get MLS minutes is certainly a choice. Sounders have been fairly lucky with call-ups this year. Yeah, that was annoying. Wasn't it? I think I was still out of town for that whole thing. But yeah, as I understand it, they called him in for, it's not the same thing as like the U20 World Cup. I don't know. What are the U19s even doing right now? What is Snyder B playing in? What is that, chat? What's going on with that? Why is he playing in that? That is actually a good segue though, because how the Sounders are going to line it up for this RSL game, that is a great question. It's going to be, you know, we're all sickos here. I can appreciate a novelty lineup. The fun thing about a novelty lineup is there's less weight of expectations. When you're running the novelty lineup like they're about to be running the novelty lineup for this game, I mean, it's going to go how it's going to go. Real Salt Lake, they might be a little depleted, but it can't be anything like this. This is going to be the most depleted lineup of the season. You're going to have stuff like Yu Tsukunome. I think that's how you say his last name. You might see a Pete Kingston Seattle Sounders first team side. It's going to be like that. It's not just the Defiance guys. It's going to be deep on that depth chart. Playing on Miami being a good time, getting in fights anytime you want, punching 20-year-olds a real rowdy good time. Exactly. Didn't it look like they were having a good time when they were starting a massive brawl? I've always felt like I've never been to Miami. We were supposed to go for the game this year, but then Seattle beat them in Leagues Cup, and we were like, there's no point in doing that anymore. Like, I don't need to go to Miami that bad. I'll go to Miami at some point. I've always felt like Miami would be a really fun place to go if you had a lot of money. That's why Messi went there, and I understand why he went there. Be a really fun place to be wealthy in, which that's why I wouldn't enjoy it as much. I don't have generational wealth. If I did, Miami would be probably a place that I would spend a lot of time in. Why not? Do you think Brian would be too prideful to go full 2021 RSL in the playoffs if that is what it took to advance? What did they do in 2021? Were they just bunkering and trolling? Because I don't think Schmetzer is too prideful to play more defensive like that. But I guess he hasn't been in many situations where doing that is like the obviously correct option. You play like that when you go into a situation where you're like very clearly, indebatably overmatched. Like Puebla in Leagues Cup this year. Way overmatched, not a good team. Leagues Cup elimination game that they had to play in Seattle. They packed it up. They parked the bus as much as you could park it and trolled for penalties. Actually pulled off the 0-0, got it to penalties. Did not win the shootout. They didn't win the shootout, but I get why they did it. There's no really reason to do that unless you're overmatched in that same way, which Seattle typically isn't really. Like in situations where they've been the underdog, like we were talking about the 2019 LAFC game. They were the underdog. I didn't think they were going to win that game. But that wasn't a situation where you would need to necessitate full troll ball. Jake's got the potential call-ups here. Leo Burney, Antino Lopez, Pete Kingston, Sebastian Gomez, Yude Sokonome. How many players can we call up? That is a good question. I don't know, but I feel like maybe that's related to how many you're missing, but there's going to be a few of those. Bernie, hasn't he been hurt for most of the year? I don't really know what's up with him. He might have come back. Haven't been fully plugged into what's going on with Defiance lately, but he did not seem like especially in the mix for MLS minutes this year. Up to 3, that sounds right to me. So I don't know. Bernie, if they only get 3, I don't think I'd be surprised if Bernie was in there. I think it'll be you. And then I would be down to see Pete. I would be down to see Pete Kingston. We're Pete Kingston fans on this show because he was on Ballard FC a couple years ago and he was freaking awesome. And then he was on he's been on Defiance all this year, and he was one of the best players in the Timbies game. I think he had the free kick. He had the free kick that's they got a goal off of when they were playing the Portland Timbies. So Pete has some game. We call him Pete. Pete has some game. I don't know if he's a MLS level player, but a situation like this, I guess you could find out. I would be surprised if any of the extreme call-up guys get minutes, barring an emergency or just maybe like a couple minutes at the very end. I don't think it's a situation where Pete is going to be starting. Osaze is signed to the first team. I know he's got loaned down, but I don't think they should. They don't need to do a extreme call up for him. Do that? I don't think so. I mean, if there's one position group where your depth is looking all right, it's number 9. Jordan's gonna be there, right? Moose is gonna be there, right? You can. Oh, sorry, Reese. I mean, I don't know. He's been playing for Defiance, so I thought you might have been confused. Yeah, I would be happy to see Pete get some run, and this is going to be a game for the content. I think I've seen enough of these games where you're down this many guys to know that the result of this one, it's going to be up to forces beyond our control or comprehension. We have no idea. I also don't really know what situation RSL is in, but like I said, I would be pretty surprised if it's if they're dealing with being depleted at anywhere close to this degree. I mean, all right, before we bust out the lineup builder, this is the list. I'll read you guys the list of guys who are going to miss this game. Tell me if I'm missing anyone. I got Obed, Snyder B, RBW, Albert Rusnak, famously, Georgie, Christian Roldan, Nuhu, Ymar, Kim Ki. Is that it? 9 guys? Am I missing anybody? Do I have anyone in there that is going to be back? That's so many guys. It's so many guys that usually play when you don't have like your first choice guys. Oh, I guess Kent too, but he's been out. But like we'll count Ryan Kent in there to make it an even 10. Yeah, if you want to count Kent and Paul Areola, then it's 11. There you go. That's the full list. And Stu Hawk, obviously. I wasn't counting guys that have like been out long term before this game, but yeah, if you count Ryan Kent, Paul Areola, Stu Hawks, as I understand it, is nearing a return. Hopefully he's back in the squad this weekend, but I don't think they would start him in his first game back. I would be down for them to do that, but I don't think they have the requisite courage. Let's see, chat. Let's bust out this lineup builder and talk about how they're going to do this with all those absences. I think the back line and the double pivot is going to be the biggest subjects of debate here. Kim is not. He's not going to play in this game. I don't know if there's been like an announcement on his prognosis yet. Yeah, full training is not equal match fit. Exactly. Who do you guys think the left back is going to be? What do you think, chat? Who are you starting at left back? No Nuhu, no RBW. I mean, it's probably John Bell. But he can also play center back. Who's going to be the left back? Who's going to be the left back? I mean, I think I'm going to put John Bell in there. Am I tripping? It's going to be John Bell. Oh, that's not going to work. There we go. It's going to be Bell, Jackson Reagan. Who plays right here? Who plays in the Kim CB spot? That's the thing. Like usually I know the answer to these while I'm filling this out. I really don't know. I do think it's going to be John Bell at left back. 3 in the back. I think it might be that type of situation, but I was also thinking of Alex in the double pivot. KKR left back, John Bell as the CB. I don't think it's gonna be Stu like first game back. I think it could end up being a three at the back situation, like a couple of you are saying. But I think Reese might be onto something. I think Reese might be onto something here. KKR inverted left back. John Bell CB. Does that look right? But then Alex Roldan needs to go in the double pivot. I would be down for Rothrock at left back. But I try to keep it to like what I think they are actually going to do. That is a lineup that Lobbing Scorchers would put out, but I don't know if Brian Schmetzer would put it out. So this is the question. I mean, Rothrock as the left back is reality? You mean that you think that he's going to do it? I mean, I don't think so. It would there honestly though, I don't know. You might be onto something with that. Here. Let's do it. Rothrock there, and then that allows you to put KKR right back. Then that allows you to put Alex Roldan in the double pivot alongside I'm going to put Danny Leyva there. Okay. What do you guys think of this? What do you guys think of this back six? I think this is kind of sick, honestly. This is actually how I would do it. This is probably how I would do it. And then, oh, well, yeah, JP. The reason I didn't put JP is because they have tried the Alex Roldan thing before. And yeah, a JP Danny Leyva double pivot. That's not covering as much ground maybe as I would like. I think Alex gives you more range defensively there. Start JP and Danny and put Alex right back, KKR up. All right. Maybe we're underselling. JP, and then that puts KKR here. All right. I'm with it. And that's a good point, Jake. Like I was struggling with who was going to play right mid, but I think with this, when you slide JP in there, that allows you to move it back to your normal fullbacks. They might honestly just do a completely different formation and make this entire thing chalked. But I honestly think, like, with what you have at your disposal, it's not a bad way to do it. Who's going to sub on for JP? Yeah, I mean, I think in that situation, you bump Alex up into the double pivot, like I had it earlier, and then you just play based off vibes for however long you need to for the rest of the match. I do think that unless there is some Rothrock experimentation as a fullback, that front four is probably how they're going to line it up. But I guess where are you guys at on the number 9 situation? Would you start Jordan in this game, or do you give Moose a start? It seems like Jordan is pretty much back entrenched as the first choice number 9, which I get, but the way Moose has produced this year, it's at least makes me think twice about it when I'm prognosticating this stuff. But I think, I mean, you got to get Jordan back fit and sharp. I think that's probably the thing that can raise your ceiling the most come playoff time. Yeah, needs minutes before the playoffs. You got to get him back firing. He's not fully looked like the usual Jordan Morris that we've come to know and love over the years for his first couple games back. So give him 60, then you can bring Moose on. I think that works. Pedro good for 90. That is also another good question, because I don't think so. Doesn't seem like he is. He didn't play 90 in the Timbies game, did he? I don't think he did. I didn't think of that, Caleb. It's a Moose revenge game. This is a Moose revenge game. He did used to play for RSL. Run him out there. Moose has got to get at least 40 minutes in this game. Revenge game. The Moose's shift against Portland was a double-edged sword. I saw a couple of those late chances where it was one of those things where he got himself into the right spots, but that last little bit of execution was just lacking. But like the movement, the runs he was making, it was all still good. It was all still there. But I mean, it is going to be interesting, because you do have to get Jordan back acclimated. But Moose has been banging in goals all year, and Osaze honestly has also been really good. So it feels kind of weird that Osaze is back banging in goals for Tacoma Defiance. You know, saw that he had a brace for them, and I was like, that's great, but the guy basically proved that he's an MLS player at this point. 3 healthy strikers need to be playing 2 of them and getting one of their midfielders off the pitch who's coming on for Pedro at 60. Yeah, honestly, what they're going to do with the subs, I think what's going to happen when the subs come in is there's going to be some formational tinkering. Just looking at where they're at personnel wise. Oh man, I forgot they have Johnny Russell. That is obnoxious. He's probably going to score a goal. This lineup should be able to score against Real Salt Lake. The front four is pretty much those are your guys. That's fine. It'd be nice if your number 10 hadn't gotten the team's 9th red card of the season in the last game, but you should be able to run your stuff with that and the JP Danny Leyva double pivot. I know JP doesn't have a lot of minutes this year, but he's a veteran player. He's an experienced guy. I think he should be able to function and get you through this game with competent level MLS midfield play. Go 2 strikers and then have Pedro come on for one of them 60 plus. That is an interesting idea, but I feel like De La Vega as a super sub has been notably not as hot as when he starts the game. I don't know why that is. Some players do better as the spark plug substitute type player than others. He seems like the type of player that is at his best when he starts the game and is able to find his way into the game like from the beginning, as opposed to, I don't know, I could be off on that. Maybe his substitute cameos just came at a time when he wasn't super fit, but that's what it seems like to me. Jesus was cramping towards the end of the game too. That's not great. Making it through this game without another injury. I mean, these last 2 games of the regular season, you really got to not have anyone get injured before the playoffs. And God knows. Let's see. Let's see if they can finish this match with 11 men. We're going to find out. They usually it seems like they got in a little cycle where they could make it. They actually could make it 2 or 3 games without getting someone sent off, and then you got to make sure that the red card quota is met. So they got one they got it in the Portland game. They got it. So now they can maybe get through these last 2 games without getting one. What is the club record? That's something that I'm going to have to look up, because I believe they're at 9 right now. That's wild. That's a wild stat. There's no way. I have not seen a season where they've had 9. 9 is like, I mean, it's become a bit at this point. We laugh and joke, the crash out red card boys, ha ha ha. But when you actually take a step back and take in the fact that this team has gotten 9 red cards this year, oh God, sorry, chat. This lineup has the bench: Moose, Osaze, and Thomas. Players not 90 fit. Morris, Pedro, João Paulo, and Leyva. Yeah, I think that's about right. I think it is going to be. It seems like Steph Fry is the guy for the rest of the season, does it not? We'll see what they do in the offseason. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that? A couple people left their thoughts on the goalkeeper controversy in the comments. It's a good little dilemma. It's a good debate. I still kind of am of 2 minds on it. I can see the argument both ways, but with it looking like Schmetzer is going to stick with Fry. Again, I said it on the pod, but when you have a tough personnel question, positional battle question like this, my main thing is just like, I want to be able to understand the logic for how you got to the decision that you made. I can understand the logic. I thought Noah made a pretty good counter argument. I understand why people feel like it was a torch passing moment this year where the torch, it didn't actually end up getting passed. A lot of people feel like it should have got passed. It's not passed yet. I think it's going to get passed, but just not this year. But then they do have to pass it. You can't not pass it forever. They had a logical opportunity for it to pass. It didn't pass. I don't know. I'm not that passionate about it either way. I think you got two good goalkeepers. You got two number ones. I will say there is part of me that's like the guy who's way noticeably better at PKs. Arguably a good option for the playoffs. You're probably going to have PKs. Your season might come down to PKs in one of these games. Who would you want in there for that, you know? Right, shootout chops. That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. Andrew Thomas is a beast at penalties. We've seen that. We saw that in the Open Cup. Saw that in Leagues Cup against Puebla. That PK shootout in Leagues Cup, didn't that just feel, that was like the least stressed I've been in a shootout. Obviously, any penalty kick shootout is going to be stressful. The adrenaline's going to be going. Nothing is guaranteed. It is a 50-50 proposition. But when he saved the first one, it just felt like, all right, Andrew Thomas has got this. It's kind of the same way I felt in the Open Cup shootout. I'm not used to feeling like that during shootouts. I'm used to wanting to die during shootouts. The one that they won in Toronto 2016, I wanted to die that whole time. They won it, but I did want to die. It'd be nice to not want to die during a shootout. I guess that's sort of how it goes in PKs, though. It's never an enjoyable experience, but that's why it's having a goalkeeper that's this good at them. It's nice. It's nice. And it came in handy in Leagues Cup. It could come in handy in the playoffs. There's like the odds that you're going to have to do penalties in at least one of these games is pretty high. He did win an MLS Cup in penalties. Fry did win an MLS Cup in penalties. And I think that's good to point out, Hunch, because he even before Andrew Thomas was on the scene, there was the narrative that Fry was like not good at penalties. He hasn't I don't think he's saved very many, like during a regular season when another team gets a penalty. I think I can think of one off the top of my head that I remember Fry saving. So I get like why people have that association with it. But he won the first MLS Cup in club history by bossing a shootout where he made a couple saves in that shootout. If you guys remember, he stuffed Michael Bradley. Okay, I think he made one save in the shootout. He stuffed Michael Bradley and then Jonathan Osorio smashed it off the post. But hey, that is a very big, important shootout win that you got to give Steph Fry credit for. It's not like he's never won a shootout. But I do understand, like, when people point out that he doesn't save them very often in the regular season. And then also, like Logan says right here, Thomas was so cool and confident against Puebla behind the goal at that game. He thrives in that environment. Exactly. Like he seemed like, I don't know how much of that is just like bravado and trying to get in the other team's head. But I thought one of the sickest moments of this whole season was when he Babe Ruthed it. He called his shot, told the crowd that he was going to save that last PK against Puebla, and then did. And then got up and said, "I told you so." That was fire. That was fire. But I think Schmetz is in a situation with it where, you know, people always talk about it's like a "what have you done for me lately" type of thing. You have to base your decisions on who you think gives you the best chance in the future and not base it on past performance. So I get that. At the same time, it's a very unique situation. You have not just a club legend, but one of the preeminent club legends who, I don't know, what do you guys think about what do you guys chat? What do you think of Stephen Fry's like performance this year? Because it's a polarizing topic and it informs, I think, how you should approach this. If there was an actual precipitous decline in his play, then the decision becomes easier. It almost gets made for you. The reason it's so hard is because they're both playing well to me. I feel like Fry has been not just fine this year, but like look at the Portland game. He was making the crazy Fry saves like he always does. Was he not? There's been a lot of talk about his mobility, maybe his decision making at times, like his reflexes, all of that stuff. To me, I feel like other people are seeing problems where maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm missing something. But I feel like when he's been on the field this year, Fry has looked pretty much like he always does. I don't know. That's why it's hard. It would be different if he was really not playing well. They were leaking goals because of him. This defense has not been nearly as good this year as it was last year. So how much of that is goalkeeping? How much of that is on the back line? How much of that is on losing control of game states and midfield, stuff like that? I don't know. But they have given up 47 goals this year. It's too many goals. There's a good chance that they are going to end this year with 50 plus goals conceded, which that's not good. They conceded 35 last year. Their best defense in the league last year and conceded 35. They're probably going to, they conceded 47. They're going to concede 50 plus. But like, to me, when I look at that, I don't really see goalkeeping as the main culprit for that. It's not like they've been doing a super bang up job all the time of limiting other teams' chance creation, and then the goalkeeping is leaking goals that they shouldn't have leaked. Like, is that what's happening? I don't think that's what's happening. I think what's happening is, well, first of all, like, there is a give and take with it. Okay. 47 goals is too many goals. We also, myself and all of you, spent a lot of last season complaining that this team wasn't dynamic and aggressive enough on offense. If you want the team to be more aggressive on offense, you can't also be aggrieved when you concede a few more goals. That's how it goes. Teams that play like that, they concede more. That's the kind of trade-off that you make. It's pretty hard to go a whole season keeping it down in the 30s while also playing super high pressing, aggressive, attacking soccer like Seattle's been trying to play this year. That being said, 47, you don't need to be pushing 50. You can find the balance where, I don't know, doesn't need to be 35 goals, but 50? It's a lot of goals, a lot of red cards. And I think if there's a frustration with that, is, for me at least, the frustration is that, you look at the table, they're in fifth. They're probably going to end up getting fifth. I would really argue that the level of footy that they've played, particularly offensively, they have played well enough. They've scored enough goals to easily be in the top four and have home field advantage. Not even a question. They could have been, the level of footy they played, I think, was high enough that they could have been at least pushing for the Shield more than they ended up pushing for, which ended up being pretty much not at all. They were never really in the Shield race. If you look at some of the drop points that they've had with just like a little better defense and game management, it's at least 10 points. It's at least 10 points that you could have just fully banked without having to say, oh, well, maybe we got lucky there, or that was just survival. No, like these are situations all the way back to the first game of the season where literally all you have to do is keep Charlotte FC from scoring for, what was that, 10 more seconds? You win that game. You had the Colorado Rapids 3-0 at home. The Colorado Rapids. That was was that game the most tilting game of the season? Where they were just absolutely destroying the Colorado Rapids and then let them come back, dropped a couple points. Honestly, that one was tilting. The Atlanta one, that took the cake for me. The Atlanta one was my most tilting game of the season because I really wanted them to beat Atlanta. I have a thing about that. I did really want them to beat Atlanta. But also, when Osaze scores a goal in the 93rd minute at Atlanta, this Atlanta team, to put you ahead with a minute or two left, there is no way that can be a draw. I will say, now that I'm thinking back on that game, Marinchuk hit an insane shot. I don't fully blame them for that. That was an insane shot. Osaze maybe could have defended that a little better, more aggressively. I do think that's one of those where it's like, okay, if you're going to hit that, I'm going to give it a tip of my cap. Keep it pushing. But the point is, there was the defensive lapses this year that cost them points. I feel like it was stuff that was unrelated to what I was talking about as far as the give and take of playing aggressively, pressing super aggressively like they do, and then that leading to more goals. There is a handful of goals this year that you could attribute to that. There's a lot that it's nothing to do with that. It's just like bad game management, bad decision making, bad red cards in many cases, famously. So I guess like as we look forward, it would be nice if they could strike a more of a balance between I still really do. I want them. I love watching this team press, or at least during Leagues Cup and all the games leading up to that. This team was pressing better than any team in Major League Soccer. And watching a team that has a really good press like that is so fun. I really like those games in Leagues Cup, like both those Galaxy games where they were just on top of them the entire time. It was phenomenal to watch. So I want them to keep doing that while also not conceding brutal goals at the end of games that cost them as many points as they dropped this year, because it was a lot. It was a lot. This team really should have been pushing for at least top 2 to 3 in the West, if not first in the West. That's how many points. All right, I'm gonna hit a few more from chat here. Probably start wrapping it up pretty soon. If you guys have any other topics, questions, agendas, thoughts, and grievances, go ahead and drop them in chat. Good to hang out for a little while longer. Probably not going to do a crazy marathon tonight, but hang out for 15, 20 more minutes, take some more questions. Go ahead and sub to the channel if you're watching this and you haven't yet. And I forgot to mention, I knew I was forgetting something. At the top of the show. Like the video. There's more people watching now than there was earlier. So this is better. Like the video, sub to the channel, follow us on Instagram and TikTok. I mean, if you're not following Lobbing Scorchers on Instagram and TikTok, I have no idea what you're doing, because that's where all the best content is at. Corey says, I was driving around today when it popped into my mind. We're in the playoffs. It's going to a penalty shootout. Does Brian sub in Thomas? How humiliating for Fry, but Schmetz should do it. I don't think that actually is humiliating, because you coaches do that for sure. Like, I've seen that done, I feel like, where they have a backup goalie that's more like a specialist, and then they make that sub like right at the end of the game to get their guy in for PKs. That's definitely something that I've seen done before. And it's honestly, Corey, it's a great idea. That is what he should do. That's literally what he should do. He should do that. Like, I'm serious. That is not like degrading to the starting keeper. Maybe keepers consider it like that, but I don't think they do, because I have 100% seen coaches do that. Even in, I want to say they did it. Didn't the Dutch do it in the World Cup recently? I don't know if it was the last one, but maybe the one before that. They had some dude, I think it was the Dutch. They had some guy who's just god tier at PKs, but their starting goalkeeper was god tier at shot stopping. So they swapped him right at the end. Or maybe the Euros. Yeah, maybe that's what I was thinking of. I didn't block you on Instagram. I would never block you on Instagram, Caleb. Get you unblocked. Were you wilding out? I don't know. I don't think Noah would block someone for absolutely no reason. I didn't block you. Who is our ideal round one opponent? LAFC, Vancouver, San Diego, or Minnesota? Yeah, that's a good question. Give me Minnesota. I want another crack at those degenerates. The way they conducted themselves in that last game in Minnesota, I didn't like that. I didn't like it. Didn't like how they played. Rubbed me the wrong way. Give me another crack at those guys. But in all seriousness, I think Seattle can get that team. Anything can happen in the play. And I was thinking about this today. I kind of totally forgot about the whole best of 3 component of these round 1 series. That makes the home field advantage thing matter a little less, at least as it pertains to the first round. You could argue that getting the second game at home is just as it's advantageous in like a different way. Instead of opening up the series with the advantage, you close it out with the advantage. I think there's different lenses to think of that. But this Minnesota team in a best of 3, I felt like in that last game in Minnesota, that is it's a hard team to play against. They have the most like weird, unique tactics in the league. The first time Seattle played them in Seattle, they didn't know how to play them at all. They kind of played that. Remember that game? They played that game kind of like exactly into their hands, which is their tactics are like, it's like the best tactics to be a MLS winning road team. It is crazy to me that they play like that, like they do at home. But as far as like on the road, Seattle kind of played right into their hands. And then in the rematch in Minnesota, I thought it felt like they had the right idea. It felt like they learned how to handle that team better. They got unlucky to not win that game. They were, oh my God. That was a really, I got to do a most tilting games rankings. That was such a tilting game because it felt like Seattle had kind of figured out how to play against their weird tactics. They were getting so close to scoring, couldn't do it. And then, of course, those absolute demons got one on a set piece, and that was the game. But I felt like Seattle was close. They had the right idea. They can beat that team. And I actively want another crack at that team. I don't want them to be rewarded for this Ramsey ball. I get that it's effective. They've had a great year with it. They're up at 1.8 points per game or whatever. So, okay. I can admit that it works. That doesn't mean I have to enjoy watching it. When we compare them, though, to the other teams that you mentioned, Vancouver, LAFC, San Diego, all 3 of those teams are teams that play really good offense. Those teams have these buzzsaw type attacks. Minnesota doesn't have that. They have this novelty possession tactics, and they have god tier set pieces. They have the best set pieces in the world, I guess. How did Eric Ramsey establish that? I have no idea. Some of them, I swear, it's just like to me, it looks lucky. It looks like fluky, gimmicky is the word I've been using. But I say that I've been saying that for the last like 2 months, and they've still been winning games. They've still been scoring goals. They've still kind of been owning teams with this stuff. But I guess for me, I'll take a match. Any team that's going to play against the ball that much, I'll take a matchup with a team like that, where they fully let you dictate the game. That's what's so weird about it. Ordinarily, one of the main things a soccer team is trying to do in any given game is impose their will on the game. They don't do that. They give you the ball and they say, you impose your will or try. We're not going to let you do that. You're going to get frustrated. Then we're going to hit you on the set piece. So I don't know. It could be a be careful what you wish for type situation, because I'm saying all this and then the reality of Seattle actually playing against Minnesota would set in. It's impossible to score on. Seattle got him for 2 goals in the game that they lost in Seattle. But to me, that first game was just like kind of the antithesis of how you want to play that team. And to be fair, that was their first time, I think, playing against Ramsey ball. So you got to adapt to that. I thought the second game was much more the right idea. You have to counter how extreme their tactics are with equally kind of extreme tactics. And that's what I thought. You guys remember this game, like how ridiculous it was? Like they would let Seattle have the ball and then drop all the way back. And Seattle was like, okay, we're going to just pass it amongst ourselves and like make you guys do something about it. We could sit here all day. And it kind of just like slowed the game down so much where there was points where it felt like it wasn't even a game anymore. But that's what you got to do. You got to fight fire with fire. If you're going to get trolled, you can't troll a troll. So if you're getting trolled and you counter troll, that's how you fight a troll. And to me, their tactics are borderline trolling, if not all out trolling in a lot of instances. I don't really want a piece of LAFC right now, but if it happens, it happens. You're going to have to go through that team at some point anyway. And they look scary right now. Son Heung-min and Denny Bwanga have formed a demonic duo spawned from the gates of hell. That's fine. I mean, so did Carlos Vela and whoever else was on that team in 2019 that had a plus 48 goal differential. Carlos Vela had 34 and 15 that year. 34 and 15. How much more productive an MLS player, as good as Son is he playing at a higher level in MLS than Carlos Vela was the year that he dropped 34 and 15? That team was hella good, is what I'm saying. In a similar way to how good this LAFC team is. Except that one was arguably more multifaceted. It's sick for them that those two guys are scoring all their goals, but they're literally scoring all their goals. You know, they played Toronto last night without Son and Bwanga. I watched that whole game. I was working it. They got goals from Ebobisse and Frankie Amaya, but it was, I don't know. To me, that was more to do with Toronto FC being Toronto FC than it was LAFC's B squad being particularly good. The first goal that LAFC got, the Toronto FC center back, literally, he just he had the ball and Abobasi pressed him and he was like, okay, you can have it. And Abobasi took it and then he went and scored easily. True, Corey, true. Best of three factor. I keep forgetting about that. LAFC would be by far last on my list. But like I said, man, like you're going to have to beat him eventually. But honestly, I don't think it's going to be an issue. I think it's going to be Minnesota. I don't see LAFC relinquishing. They're up to third, I think, now. They hopped Minnesota by beating Toronto, and I think they still have a game in hand. Minnesota is not as hot as them. I don't think that's going to be an issue. But agreed, I would take Vancouver over LAFC. That's for sure. Vancouver, they're really good, but I didn't see anything. Those Seattle just played Vancouver. I didn't see anything to suggest to me in that game that would be some kind of crazy mismatch. LAFC is headed for first or second. I think based on the current form, I think 4-5 Minnesota versus Seattle is the most. I think that's the most likely outcome. That's what I want. It's partially because I think Seattle has a better chance of beating them, but it's also the principle. I don't want those guys in the playoffs. The longer that they're in the playoffs, the more we have to watch Ramsey ball, which I'm anti-Ramsey. I'm sorry, Minnesota fans. I know a lot of you watch Lobbing Scorchers. I'm sorry. There's no way that their fans are like okay with that. I think they must be because it's getting results. So it's probably like, honestly, if Seattle played like that and they were taking the results that Minnesota was, I would probably be sitting here arguing how great a style it is. The ends justify the means type stuff. I just remember watching that Seattle Minnesota game in Minnesota and being just like gobsmacked. You guys play like this at home? At home in front of your own fans? And I will say, like, let's look at their I'm gonna pull up the table. I'm gonna pull up the table real quick. I'll show you guys something. We're gonna look at the table for playoff reasons, but also look at this. Okay, so you've got the West table right here. Minnesota, they are in fourth right now, 1.76 points per game, 16, 7, and 10 record, plus 18 goal differential. It's a great season. They've had a very, very good season. But look, this is what I'm saying. They're 8-2-6 on the road. That is crazy. That is very hard to do. 8-2-6 on the road is in elite road record in MLS. You cannot do it up much better than that on the road. San Diego has 11 wins on the road this year. That's kind of an interesting season from San Diego. They won 11 games on the road this year, but we're 7-5-5 at home. That's an actively bad home record for MLS. Imagine how many damn points San Diego would have had if they had just taken care of business at home more. 11 wins on the road. That's crazy. But like if you look at Minnesota, they're 8-2-6 on the road and 8-5-4 at home, which is mediocre. That's not very good. If they played Ramsey ball on the road and then played real soccer at home, I'd be like, okay, that actually cooks. You've clearly figured out the formula for winning on the road in this league, which that's not easy to do. But then to still do it, to still do it when you're at home in front of your own fans. That's crazy. I haven't watched any San Diego FC. Are they legit? I think they're legit. There was some talk towards the end of the year when they cooled down a little bit that they were getting compared to St. Louis City SC Fraud Watch. Like, is it a similar situation to that where you have an expansion team on this like magic carpet ride that they're punching above their weight and they finish really high on the table, but we all knew it wasn't real the whole time. I don't think that's what's going on with San Diego. I think that their attack, when it's going, is pretty hard to stop. I mean, you got Chucky Lozano, who I'm not sure he might have gotten injured recently or missed some time, but when he's been healthy, he's looked fantastic, like one of the best players in the league. And then Anders Dreyer is just insane. He has I'll look it up. Last time I looked it up, he had 14 goals, 18 assists or something crazy like that. He's put up a real crooked stat line this year. Anders Dreyer, folks, 17 goals, 18 assists. If it wasn't for Messi, he would be the MVP easily. The thing is, Anders Dreyer has 17 and 18 in almost 3K minutes. He's also started all 33 of their games that they played in the regular season this year. So he's been like an absolute workhorse. Messi has 24 and 17 in 2,200 minutes. So like 700 roughly less minutes than Dreyer. That's honestly absurd. Lionel Messi last year had 20 goals, 16 assists in 1,400 minutes, won MVP. I voted for him. This year, he's got 24 and 17 in 2,200 minutes. No goals in the League Cup final, though. Couldn't do it on a stunning picturesque day at Lumen Field in Seattle, Washington. He is putting up insane numbers in MLS this year, though. He's going to get MVP again. I mean, it's kind of been between him and Anders Dreyer. I wasn't sure if Dreyer had stayed hot or as hot as he was. He's at 17 and 18 in almost 3,000 minutes. Messi, 24 and 17 in 2,200 minutes is just, I'm going to have to vote for him again. That kind of seals it. I'm going to vote for him again. There's just no kind of comparison to the efficiency with which he churns it out on the stat sheet. There's really not. I knew that about him. If you just look at his career in La Liga, which I've done a few times, he racks up goals and assists like this every year for whatever team he's on. But seeing him actually do it, it's kind of just like, wow, that's a cheat code. That is a cheat code to have a guy who can do that. But it's not going to win you every trophy. Not if you don't have a good team around you, which he does right now. But I mean, you got Obed Vargas put a couple of these guys into retirement. Sergio Busquets was like, I'm not playing this sport anymore. Jordi Alba, I've had enough. You mean to tell me I have to go play on turf against Obed Vargas to win a trophy in this league? No. I've had about enough. So you got their left back and their D mid retiring. How locked are they going to be? MVP going to get named after him? Probably. Kraken game boring as hell. Lobbing Scorchers better. What's up, Noah? Nice of you to to stop by finally. Hope the Kraken game was fun. I still haven't been to one. I want to go at some point, but they're so expensive. Are they even that good? I don't know. I am going to go at some point. It's just like, man, why do you got to price gouge everything? Do we really have to price gouge every single thing in society? Noah's podcasting again. We put out a podcast yesterday. Go check it out. Give it a listen. I was invited to Kraken, but I'm here, Reese. I can't skip Under the Lights. Not after I already skipped it last week. Luis Suarez was retired by Obed. 30-something pro couldn't keep his cool to our star boy. I mean, yeah, their whole team honestly should retire after that. Busquets and Jordi Alba, to be fair, literally are retiring. But Falcone should retire too, and Tomas Aviles. I know Aviles is like 23, but he should retire. He should retire. They're not going to live that down. I only have real commitment to the content. Okay. I did literally, I think taking off Under the Lights and kickoff this last Thursday and Monday, that's probably the first time I missed it all season. So I was entitled to, but like now I'm back. Now I'm back locked in. We got playoffs coming up, so I'm locked. We're gonna be here on our normal schedule. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up right there, though. On that note, if you got any last comments, questions, hang around for a couple more minutes. But I'm gonna start the wrap up process. Pat says the one thing I want from a Minnesota rematch is Dane to get a yellow card for time wasting. Every single time he gets the ball, he wastes a minute. They do all that stuff. That's going to be a thing. That's going to be a thing in the playoffs, kind of probably no matter who you play. But a series against the Loons, it'll be like that. But, I mean, Seattle's played enough CONCACAF games that that shouldn't be an issue. Most dead ball time. Yep, exactly. All the long throws and set pieces. Killing the clock. They're good. I will say, I know I've spent the last like 3 weeks talking about how much I don't like their tactics. It works. Like it literally, I cannot hate on it from that standpoint. If it stopped working, they would have to stop doing it. But it works. So until someone stops them from doing that, they're going to keep doing it. And I would be happy to see the Seattle Sounders be the one to put a stop to it. All right, yeah. That's going to do it for me tonight, everybody. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Good to be back. Glad to be on my normal schedule. Just, feels right. Feels right. Playoffs coming up, but two more big. I mean, these are big games. These are big games, vibes-wise. They're actually not really big games, like table-wise. But like the vibes going into playoffs matter. And even when you're down 27 guys like they are for this RSL game, if the 13 remaining players and half of Tacoma Defiance can take down RSL, a not very good MLS team, but an MLS team nonetheless, that would help the vibes. Yes, on post-game show, I see no reason why we wouldn't be able to fire it up from the field like we have been. Follow me on Blue Sky. I'll blast out the link right post-game when we're firing that up. We'll take calls, all that. So don't miss out on that. And then after that, I'll be back at it with Nico on Monday for kickoff, which I'm, we didn't do it last week. Noah and Nico held it down and recorded it without me. So excited to catch up with him. And then we'll be in decision day mode playoff time. It's going to be good stuff. The content don't stop. All right. That's it for me tonight. I'll catch you guys on Saturday night. Love you all. Peace.
Some people come to Lumen Field for the tactics, for the soccer, the atmosphere. And some come for Paul Rothrock's hair. Me personally, I come for both, because I have agendas to push. Live soccer isn't just better, it's way more personal. From making friends to becoming the guy in your section that's just constantly yelling about advanced statistics. Get tickets to any Sounders match by visiting lobbingscorchers.com/tickets. You support the pod, our agendas, the vibes, and the chaos.